What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Down the Middle. My name is Los Silva, Los Hustle on the internets, and I'm here with my very good friend and partner on this, Max Finn. What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
This is Christmas end of the year edition.
Yeah, it's I think the last episode of the year.
Yeah, dude, I really thought that I was gonna love doing this, but like it's like my favorite. We have to find a way to monetize it, just because like I want to do more. You know what I mean? Like this is the dopest, funnest, like most creative, enjoyable, only hour that not that everything else sucks, but like this is just, I look forward to this more than I do than anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like, if I could just sell everything else or put everything else on hold or just get more passive in it and just do this daily. Because you look at like what, whether it's Rogan or Shapiro, anybody that's like a full-time,
right,
podcaster or, blogger or content creator essentially. And that's like all they're doing. Where like Shapiro or Crystal and Saga, any people, like every day they're recording episodes. I think that's the challenge with this is like, Rogan's on episode, 1755?
Yeah.
In the 1700s.
Yeah.
So it's to get a large following requires consistency and requires a lot of content. It requires episode. And so it's like, it gets frustrating sometimes where it's like, I have a lot of fun doing this and I know that it could be a lot bigger and it should be a lot bigger just because the stuff we're talking about is really important.
Right.
It's not all just marketing or business or, there's a lot of podcasts by people in our space and they're, very, very specific and that's fine. And that's all. And there's a lot of ones that I listen to because they're really valuable, but it's like in the grand scheme of things, I think what we talk about on the show is much more important because we're talking about more macro level issues that impact everybody. And that's what's cool about what we're doing. It's like, we're not limited to just the, few million internet marketers or just a few million, hardcore entrepreneurs. It's like this, this technically should hit everybody.
Yeah.
And I think we do a good job. I think we can always do a better job. I think we do a pretty good job of covering stuff in a, we obviously have our feelings and our biases, but trying to like discuss things rationally and not be emotional about it and say like, I feel this way about it, but like, I'd love to talk to somebody that disagrees with it. And I'd love to have a discussion. And so, yeah, I hope we can do a lot more of these and figure out a way to make this like, even, maybe it's 2-3 episodes a week. I don't know. Yeah. Or we expand it or we do different series or there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do in 2022.
So that's something that we're going to be doing, guys. We're talking a lot about how to expand this, and we're also starting a kind of a blog that's not going to be called Down the Middle. It's going to be called Shot of Wealth. That's going to kind of talk about a bunch of different topics that, like he covered, it's just more on the macro level that we think you guys are going to really, really enjoy. But on this final year episode, we've got to probably start, I think we should start with the president being so oblivious, whether you like him or not. You got to, I mean, I've got a bunch of Democratic friends that are like, man, that was just embarrassing. Who was he getting interviewed by?
So it was an interview. It was their Christmas, like, special, everything, like, the presidents do different things for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And so he was with Jill and they were kind of on like a little set that they've created and just taking phone calls. They were talking to kids and it's a really cool thing. I think presidents do a good job of that during, Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff to like talk to the people and have, talk to kids and make it, fun to get to meet the president, talk to the president. And so, yeah, it's like a family that called in, a guy that called in and was talking about his kids and what he wants for Christmas. And it was a relatively normal phone call. Like it wasn't a fishy phone call. And it even like to the end didn't get fishy. And then the guy basically ended the call by saying, "Let's go, Brandon." Yeah. And what's amazing about this, like he has to be aware.
His team has to have told him, hey, so there's this thing going on.
Yeah, there's zero way. I mean, you're the president of the United States. Like I'd imagine, like, I know Trump didn't really read the news. He got his news from Fox, but still, like, you're consuming news from somewhere, even if it's just MSNBC or something like that.
Right.
And they talk about it. It's been a very big thing for months and months and months, and I'm sure he's been briefed on it and all this stuff. And so to hear that and not instantly, like, recognize that, and then to repeat it back to him, and then after repeating it back to him and he hangs up on you, then to ask him, like, oh, you're I forget he asked because he was from some state. And he's like, oh, you're from here. Like trying to continue the conversation. The phone was obviously, they said goodbye, like obviously not on the line anymore. And then it was an awkward like 30 seconds. And you can tell Jill definitely got it. And she's looking at him like she knows like that just happened.
This. Yeah.
Yeah, it's embarrassing and it's sad. And we talked about this before. Like, you know, I disagree with the guy on a lot of what he's doing. I'm not a fan of his politics. At the same time, I genuinely feel bad. It's not even like a malicious thing for me. It's like, I know there are a lot of people who just like hated Trump as a person.
Yeah.
They hated what he did. Like for me, it's like, I don't necessarily even have, I feel sympathy because he's way too old and he's in decline and he's just, they're just keeping him out there. Like there's no safety net for him. It's just like, stay out there until you can't do it anymore, basically, and hopefully make it through the clock.
I mean, even if you like him, hate him, like Trump, I don't care. I don't think anyone should run a country at 70-something years old, like point blank, period. I think, you know who I think should be president maybe? Jack Dorsey. Or like someone who is involved in tech, changes, challenges, entrepreneurship. You have to be vetted more than just like, oh, dude's been in politics all his life. That's not a thing. Like, I mean, it is, I get it, but like, that shouldn't be enough of a qualification to run a country because a country's a business. And right now, like this business should be shut down. It's in debt. Like if you looked at it on a macro business level, like that's not the play. Also, you want to get people that are knowing about all issues. In most of the time, that tends to be entrepreneurs because it all affects them, right? And then there's an age gap. Like I think you should, I don't know, maybe 65, like tops, like you can't get a car. You can't drive a car past a certain age. You cannot be president once 65 hits. You got to go out.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I honestly think if you polled most Americans, not just even right now, but over the last 10 years,
right,
last 20 years, and you asked, you know, should there be just like there's an age requirement, should there be an age limit on presidency or running any public office? I'm going to just make an assumption here that 75% plus would say yes. And the only people that would say no probably are the
people in the government
and people in the government that maybe are like, you know, they're just like that viewpoint. Here. Yeah. And they don't want to be discriminated against because they're old or ageism, whatever you call it. It's funny. I was listening to, Rogan had Tim Dillon on his podcast and Tim Dillon's hysterical. Like he's like Rogan's like favorite guy in the world. So he has him on all the time. And they're talking about a lot of stuff. And one of the things they're talking about is like nowadays, who would want to go into politics? Like this is the big thing is there's no like great incentive.
No, there's not.
To get quality people.
Most of the time it's a pay cut.
Right. So if you're a smart, successful person, and you have something going on, like why in the world would you decide to be go run for the House or the Senate or the presidency? Like there's almost zero reason. There's zero financial reason. There's zero
popularity,
social reasons,
right?
It's like you're going to be hated. You're going to have, just constant pressure put on you. You're going to have, just all this downside.
You're aging 30 years in 4.
Yeah. And so that's why you don't have Elon Musk or Jack Dorsey or, any of these really smart people, whether you like them or not, just really smart, successful people who have done really well, have built massive, massive companies, innovative technologies, running for office, and have no desire to run for office. I think the only people you're left with now, and this is what you're seeing, are like radical people who view this as a way to get very, very popular and to amplify their message. And you get these like kind of true believers who really don't have anything going on for them, who aren't necessarily that smart. They don't really have a career path, but they have a strong viewpoint, or they just, like I said, they want to be famous. They want to be celebrities, but they're not talented. So they're not actors or singers or comedians. Right. So what do you do if you're a, kind of a loser, kind of a reject, not really smart, not really going anywhere, but not talented, but you want to have those things? You run for, you run for office. You start at the state level, then you go up to it's not hard in a lot of these states, these small states. Like there's not a ton of competition. You look at like who's running for the primaries. Like you have, pretty mediocre competition.
Right.
And that's when you end up with, people on the left and the right that are getting radical. You have, you know, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, who was just like batshit crazy. Like that person is a you know, they're an elected official. Like that's crazy to me that they go to work every day in Washington in DC representing this country or people in your state. And then you have, you know, Ilhan Omar and people on the other side who are equally as radical and crazy. And what Rogan said, which is interesting, it's like he views it the same way as mediocre comedians who hit on a bit. So like a bit hits. And what mediocre people do is they lean into it because they know this works. So, and nothing else I do is work. So I'm going to work it. I'm going to keep pushing because that's getting me attention. People like it. I think you're saying the same thing with a lot of politicians where it's like, okay, nobody really gives a shit about me. Nobody cares about me. But I said this one thing and now everyone's talking about me. So if I care about that, that's not the type of person I am. I care about attention.
Right. Why
would I just be more normal? Like, no, this works. Being crazy, saying I believe in this theory and all this stuff, these people now really like me. Yeah. And these people over here really hate me and they're talking about me every day. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to go lean harder into it and harder into it. I wonder how many of these people actually believe in half the shit they say. Like if you actually sat down lie detector with half these people, these politicians, and said like, do you believe this? Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, do you believe in QAnon? And she might. She seems pretty crazy. But like a lot of them, you know, a lot of the Republicans and Democrats who aren't as crazy. It's a play. They're marketers.
They're actors.
Yeah.
Right. They're influencers. At one point you become an actor, a content person that creates a persona to move in a way. Like I'm not saying everyone is like that, but your subconscious might even bleed into like, yeah, this is what I believe. You're robotic almost in the movements and in the mission and like the party and things like that. And it's become crazy, man. Like I could see a world, I think we talked about this a few episodes back, but I can see a world, probably not in the near future, but I could see Florida being its own place, and Texas being its own place, Michigan, whatever. Like I can see the separation and I can see the logic behind it. I'm like, okay, well, X amount of people live in this particular state right now, which would independencies or whatever, and their belief level, their system, their everything, it could create better economy, better whatever. And you'll see like some states do better, some states be horrendous. But I think there's also something crazy in the thought of like one dude trying to carry 50 states that are all growing massively and thinking individually, you know, like that might be outdated. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a scary thought. It's basically the thought is, does true kind of democracy work at scale?
Right.
That's the question. Because to control 50 kind of independent states with radically different beliefs and values without having a lot of tools to control those people, it's really tough. The reason it works for other large countries like China is because they don't have any dissent. Games.
Yeah.
Right? There's no differing values or beliefs. And if you do differ,
you're in trouble.
You go to jail.
Right.
And you disappear. No matter how rich you are, right?
Yeah, right.
You're a billionaire and you dissent. Jack Ma disappeared for months. For months. Disappeared. Right. And then popped back up.
Right.
Right. They're so powerful that they got Amazon. So Xi Jinping wrote his book and they got Amazon to take all the reviews that weren't 5-star down. Right? Like that's how powerful China is. China doesn't fuck around. Right? China is like, this is what we're going to do.
It's martial law.
And like, you are going to do it or there are consequences. Democracy
is the full opposite of that.
Is the full opposite. It's everyone has a voice. Everyone can be heard. We can have different views. And at the fundamental level, I believe that's a much better solution, right? As a human being, I think that's way better.
But maybe in smaller ways, like we're going to get completely eaten up by China.
That's the fear. So the fear is that by not having a middle ground or finding a solution, that you lose to China and the entire world essentially becomes China, which is extreme, right? That's an extreme end of the spectrum. And frankly, I don't know how you, like we talked about this last week, I think. I have zero idea how you stop at this moment.
China.
How you stop us from declining and China from from taking over.
Dude,
I don't think it's, I think it's inevitable.
I hate to say that I completely agree with you, but I mean, look at the largest, fastest growing website and most searched this year, TikTok, Chinese.
Yep.
And no one knows it. I mean, we're weirdo nerds or whatever. No one really looks at it and is like, oh, TikTok is Chinese. And if so, there's ignorance and like, so who cares? Whatever. Yeah. Like, dude, they're getting all the data. They're bigger than Google. Like that, your browser launches and you hit Google. And most people are, and they're beating all that by a lot. I think that's a huge red flag. It's almost like the dagger. It's not even a red flag. It's just like, we got you, dude.
So let's talk. This is a great transition. So this is a theory that I've had, and I've heard it a lot of other times as well. I didn't originate, but I've heard it and I've been thinking about it a lot lately. So we're so caught up in a kind of 20th century view of warfare.
Right.
Like our view, when you tell anybody, like you want to take another country down, what do? We have this massive army, we invade, we have jets, we have helicopters, tanks, battleships, and we destroy them, right? We physically take over.
Yeah.
And so we're investing all this money into our military to do that. If you're right now in China, they're playing such a different game, right? Sure, they're building up.
It's all tech.
Sure, they're building up their military tech and their, battleships and all that stuff, right? But if you really want to take a country down, right? If you really want to win a war and beat a country over a period of time, what is happening to the fabric of America right now seems to be a good way to do it. And what I mean by that, and this again, it's not substantiated. There's some anecdotal evidence and some
it's a theory for now.
Yeah. That all these, viral Facebook groups that are polarizing and all these trends on TikTok that are causing our kids to do terrible things, they have to originate from somewhere, right? So if I'm trying to destroy a country, a pretty great way to do it is to have this blackout challenge. Let's have this thing go viral on our app that all our kids watch where they think it's a good idea to hold their breath or choke themselves until they black out. And then kids start dying. Let's have all these self-harm challenges. Let's have all these things. Let's push social media and push all these, idealistic images. So kids are getting depressed. And so we have depression and suicidal thoughts and drug addiction. And let's flood their market with drugs. We'll send fentanyl over there and stuff. Like,
let's just kill people on the spot.
If you can get our country to destroy itself without needing to fire a bullet.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what's happening. I think if you look at what's happened over the last decade, especially the last few years, there's so much awful shit. There's so much unrest. There's so much division. There's so much pain and suffering and death from addiction and suicide and all these things that are happening, this division on social media. And it's really happening, it seems like, most noticeably in America.
Right.
It doesn't seem like China has that problem. It doesn't seem like other countries have the same problem that we have. And so you have to ask yourself, like, where's all of this shit originating from? And there is facts that, like, they're like we talked about before, I think 19 of the top 20 Christian groups on Facebook were created from Russia. Mm-hmm. So Russian, I don't know if it's Russian state actors or independent groups in Russia, but Troll Farm essentially created these groups. Right. They're creating these groups on Facebook, and they're causing people to hate each other, right? So a lot of these groups, it's been proven, have been created by other countries. They're not created by Americans. And so I think it's not unrealistic to think that an app owned by a Chinese company, that all these crazy, awful challenges that what 16-year-old would originate that? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, what 16-year-old's thinking, like, I'm going to start a challenge where you choke yourself until you black out? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
But even then, though, like, what platform makes it a hashtag to go viral in? Like, you know what I'm saying? And you can't say anything like, all right, well, we're going to go hit China. They're going to do whatever. I mean, the fact that it's a viral hashtag, it's a full vibe for children to do it. Like, it's cool. It's trending up. Like, normal people, anybody with a conscience would be like, shut that shit down. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're fired for making it a hashtag, dude. And instead, it's the opposite. It's the complete opposite, right? And I agree with you. Like, everyone's thinking about things the wrong way. I mean, TikTok's out here manipulating, creating theories, letting whatever they want go viral, and like no one can stop it. And now it's gained so much market share that like it is bigger than our biggest platforms. And that is where you're getting the news. Like that's where the majority of young people are getting their news delivered. That's where they're getting conspiracy theories. That's where they're getting who to like, what to like. I mean, I've even heard like ridiculousness that like, you know, TikTok kind of like puts up like whoever they want to make go viral to like, it's another way of like losing sight of life. You know, I mean, like it's a crazy but really serious conversation to have. But you can't have it with anybody because it's also, to most people, negligible and not important until we're fully like slaves.
And that's the beauty of it. So, and the beauty of it, I'm talking from like tactical military perspective, right? It is a slow paper cut. It's kind of a death by 1,000 cuts, right? It's like if we do one big thing, like China can't, you know, launch an attack, right? They, you know, it can't be like Japan back with Pearl Harbor, right? You do something like that, it's mutually assured destruction, right? We're going to see it. We're going to respond. There's no way we don't respond to a physical attack.
Right.
But if you want to beat us without us even knowing you're beating us, right? If you want to just win and have our population completely unaware that you're actually taking over, this is a perfect way to do it. It's you do these subtle attacks, right? Where we're going to just flood your entertainment. We're going to flood your media, your social media, your culture with all this toxic shit. And we're going to do it day after day after day and literally just poison the minds of your youth. So we're not going to, you know, it's not going to happen in a year or 5 years, but a decade from now, you'll see what happens.
And think about it for the people who are like, oh, that wouldn't work like that. Okay, now let's think about it on a business level. Every single Fortune 500 and 100, whatever, all use Zoom. Zoom's Chinese. And the Chinese government could and has the right to say, we want all your data on every company specifically that you have. You can't do anything about it. They have to share it, and they will. And that's a probability more than it's less likely to be reality. And also, going back to that, think about it. They're creating an app that they're not even allowed to use. Like Chinese people have like an allotted time amount to use, and if not, you can go to jail. Like they're serving a death blow to you, like by 1,000 cuts, while they become more smart and a more dominant, intellectually savvy nation.
Yeah, isn't that the beauty of it? It's like we're gonna give you, America, the completely unfiltered version of our technology, and you can just melt your brains with it.
Right.
We're gonna use our version. And at 8 p.m. at night for our kids under 18, we're going to put science and math videos on there. And we're going to put days you can play video games and you can't play video games. We're going to put hours you can play video games. And we're going to put all these restrictions on our kids because we don't want our kids to grow up to be depressed
like you.
morons.
Yeah.
But you guys over there, like, you got to figure it out. You just, you know, freedom, you do whatever you want. And again, I get conflicted with this because I am such a kind of libertarian at heart. And pro-freedom, pro-people's ability to choose what they want to do. But at the same time, when people are just ill-informed and uneducated in a lot of issues and are unaware of what's happening, that freedom to have, I don't want to have restrictions and stuff, like, can lead to massive, like, long-term negative implications for our entire country. And I think that's the fear right now, is that we're, you know, fighting over stuff that is so insignificant and so stupid and trivial in the grand scheme of things. And while we're doing this and tearing ourselves apart, there's the superpower just sitting here, just waiting.
Playing chess.
Just waiting. They're just watching and sitting and saying, oh, look, another, you know, news story about this, another news story about this. Like, our plan's working. And again, I know this is we're talking about a theory here.
Right.
But I don't think it's a stretch. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of family that are in the military. I have a cousin-in-law that was deep in the SEALs. He was an EOD diver, really connected to the military. I was with him at my sister's wedding. We spoke for hours. And like, this is common knowledge inside the military. This is common knowledge by higher ups, people that have spent their entire lives training on military theory and game theory and stuff. Look at what's happening and like, know this is exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's the masses, like, nobody wants to believe that, or they just, frankly, this is the scarier one, is that people do know and just don't give a shit.
Well, I think two things with this, and then we can move topic. I think the crazy thing is that the United States of America is not united.
Yeah,
that's one big problem. And then I think, you know, Ray Dalio talks about the order of consequence, like that we are too deep in whatever happened previously. The order of consequence is some sort of split, because let's say you go, okay, we are going to implement just. I think this would be awesome and super positive. By like 7 o'clock, all my kids can watch is like math and theory of relativity and like a great positive. Dude, I'm in. But half America, just to be out, would be out. The other half is sheep, or whatever you call it. And no matter what choice you make now, it's broken in half. Yep. Like, it is just broken in half. And that was the plan. And you can't mend it back. We'd have to go to war, a physical war, because we couldn't entertain an intellectual war right now to bring us back together. Or like someone would have to bomb us to make America united. Like that would have to start a new order of consequences. You know what I mean? Because we're too deep in the first one.
And again, then we'll end on that. Like, this is what you just said is why China or other countries would never, at least unless something dramatic change,
right,
would never launch an actual military strike, because they know Pearl Harbor, right? When Pearl Harbor happened, we were sitting it out World War II. We were sitting it out. We weren't really didn't get involved. Nobody was for it. It's like, that's over there. We're not dealing with it, right? As soon as that happened, everyone's like, let's start building tanks. Let's start building jets. Let's send people over there and let's go kick some ass together.
Yeah.
And everyone got together. All the women left the house. They started making bullets, started making guns. All the men enlisted, went over to fight. Like, it united the country for years, and it made us stronger, and it brought us out of the Second World War. It kind of brought us out of the Depression. Like, a lot of stuff happened that was positive for America. Obviously, it was terrible as a world war, but it basically was the impetus for America becoming the global superpower.
Right.
That one event, if it didn't happen, things could look a lot different. So China is not stupid. They're looking at it and saying, hey, we're not going to do that. We're going to sit back and let them tear us apart and divide themselves.
Right. Well, that's life, guys. Yeah. Let us know your theories. We're happy to listen to it and stuff. Just let us know in the comments and stuff. But what's the next topic we got?
Let's talk about something totally different and a little more. It's still somewhat sad because of the outcome, but positive. So I don't know did you watch? So HBO's been doing this really cool. I think it's called The Music Box. Uh-huh. It's a documentary series. I think it's a 6 or 8 part series, and each one's like covering a different famous musician. Really wide ranging. Yeah. So there's one on like DMX, one on Alanis Morissette, one that covered Woodstock, the one that happened in like I think 2000 or the 90s. Kenny G. So it's like really diverse. And it's really cool. It's like an hour and a half documentary. Yeah. Just talking about these people. And there was one for Juice WRLD, who, for anybody who doesn't know, he blew up in like 2018, 2017, became really, really big, really fast.
He would be the #1 artist right now.
And overdosed and died. Yeah. But I've listened to his music before, but I never was a deep dive. It was like, pop up on Spotify and hear his stuff, and I knew what happened to him.
I'm a big Juice WRLD fan, actually.
And I knew his album, kind of came out after him. I know he has a lot of songs, but so I watched this, and it was so Larissa and I both watched. I watched it once, and I said, "You got to watch this." And we watched it together. So impressive. Like, it was when you watch somebody that's like a true
artist,
like not even just art, like a true like savant in what they do, like just gifted. You can tell, and I was just like blown. I was like this, and then I dove deep, and I started like going back and watching all those like radio interviews and his freestyles. I mean, he never, for anybody like doesn't like rap or whatever. Like I get it, you don't like rap, but like the art form of being able to freestyle, being able to just, as somebody who's playing a beat, just say things that make sense
punchlines
over a period of time. He would go for, like, there was one, it was like an hour. Like, he was in one, radio interview for like an hour, and they just played a beat and he just did it. He never wrote music. No, he never wrote a single song. Yeah. They had in the documentary, it started with, I think it was Benny Blanco, who's a really big producer and DJ, and saying, he came in the first time I met him, and what he would do is he would say, just play the beat, play it, and then he would just freestyle. He'd say, okay, run it back. And he would do it again. And then he'd run it back, do it again. Do that like 4 or 5 times. And he said each time was full song, and it was totally different each time. And then he'd pick the one he liked the most, And then they would just do it again and again and again. And he said he's never seen anything like it in his life. And you have all these super producers that were on the documentary saying like they've never seen a rapper or, you know, musician do that before. And it's so sad because you look at somebody like that who had that big of an impact, that talented, like if he lived, you know, if he was still alive now and then lived another 40, 50 years, like what does that person do for music? Like what does that person produce? Like think about the impact they had in 2 years.
He was on track. He was on track to be he was like moving into like top artists, right? And he was on track for it. It's sad because like his last 2 albums, like you could hear, like if you listen to the lyrics of the songs, like Homeboy was just depressed.
Yeah, and because he didn't write anything, this is what they said after the fact, like more people should have known because everything was on the top of his head.
Right.
And so at some point when all of your songs talk about depression,
killing yourself,
and you know, needing to stop drugs and stuff, like it's sad because, you know, I went through this. So like I'm watching this and like have an understanding of specifically with opiates, like what he was going through. And the problem with musicians sometimes and like celebrities is everyone around you, you're the, you know, the golden goose.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to be the person to say like, hey, maybe you shouldn't, you know, cut it back a little bit. Like
you do whatever you say,
you need help,
whatever you want, bro.
You're going to encourage them and support them, and you're just there to enable them because they're writing checks
and you want more from them.
It's a lifestyle, right? Yeah. And so you see all these people around him, and not like one person said, you know, maybe like let's, you know, why don't you check into let's check in for a month. Go to this really nice place, just check in, you know, detox for a month, get the best doctors, best people, and yeah, I mean it's sad because like the way he overdosed too was, again, it was stupid because it was like a private jet flight from LA to Chicago, and they pissed the pilot off because they were like 6 hours late. And this again goes back to like, I think about this a lot. Doris and I were talking like fate, right? Like what would have happened if they just showed up on time? Like, would he still be alive today? Would the pilot not have gotten pissed off? And if the pilot didn't get pissed off, would he not called ahead saying that they had drugs and guns on board? Yeah. Because what happened is the pilot called ahead, and so FBI and stuff were waiting for them when they landed because they had guns and like 70 pounds of pot and drugs and stuff. But what's crazy is like people that were on the jet with him said like, I would have taken the gun. Like, I said, give it to me. Like, I'll take it. He had all these people around him. That's what they're getting paid for essentially. It's like something happens, like they're going to take the rap, right? You're the money train. They're not going to. So he wasn't going to go to jail. Like maybe you go to jail for, you know, a day or something, bailed out. Like everyone else there would have taken, because Kid Leroy was on the plane too. He's fine. Yeah. You know, he's bigger. He's the biggest musician in the world.
Right.
And, but he took a bunch of the drugs, a bunch of pills because he didn't want to get caught with them, and had a seizure and died.
Crazy.
And it's pointless. Like it's in the grand scheme of things, there was no reason to do that. And it's, you know, sad the impact that has on music.
Yeah. Right? It's sad too. Like that he's, you know, it depends also how you listen to his music, right? You could listen to it and be like, it's sad, but it's positive that he's putting it out so like people can express themselves more. Or you could kind of look at it and like, oh, dude, depressed, I'm depressed too, and kind of like sink into more of a hole, you know? But I mean, I think he was making the music that he was making to connect with kids, to be like, yo, we need to like get out of here. You know what I mean? Because a lot of what he's like, yeah, I'm negative, but like I want out. Yeah, like, I want out. I want help out. Whatever help out looks like. If it's I'm gone. But if it's like help, like I'm asking for this hand. You know what I mean?
Or just removing the stigma. That's the big thing. Is if you remove the stigma of depression and drug addiction, people are much more likely, especially kids, to say they have a problem or say they need help and seek help. Right. When you stigmatize stuff, which is what people have done for a really long time with drug addiction, it's nobody wants to admit they're addicted to drugs because they feel like they're a weaker person or there's something wrong with them.
They're a loser.
And so they don't do it. And because they're not holding and not talking to anybody, they do more of it. And it becomes this really, you know, terrible spiral. There's no escape. So I think, you know, by him creating music, talking about it, I think it, you know, helped a lot of kids that now understand like there's not a stigma here. Like he's a superstar and he's rapping about it. He's talking about it. He's not doing what most rappers, musicians do, which is bragging about all their stuff and talking about their lifestyle, how good life is. It's
he's
like
the opposite.
Yeah.
That's why he connected with everyone. Because it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, I would say 80% of America, at least, let's not go with the world, but America is on some sort of medication, drinking pills, this, uppers, downers, mediums, whatever the case, right? It's just no one talks about it, but like the world like is on some shit. You know, it's the most normal thing. I mean, you're bred to be medicated. You have a problem, here's medication. You don't realize it. Again, going to the order of consequence, that gets you to this, to this, to this, and then you could end up anywhere, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot more depression, or just, you know, maybe not as serious, but like just general unhappiness in the world. I would argue that most Americans, if not all, with the exception of a small percent, are unhappy to some extent. Like, social media wouldn't exist if that wasn't the case, right? There's a reason why we follow celebrities and influencers, because so many people are just unhappy with where they are and they want to live through somebody else. Yeah. I want to see, what's Kim Kardashian doing? She's on her jet today and she's in this house and look at what she just bought. Like, I don't have that. Like, that's why is my life so shitty? Why I wish I had those things.
Yeah.
And it's sad. Especially we talked about like the molecule more, right? Like, it's sad because I understand, you understand that it's almost like a unfair. It's like a rigged game. Like, we know that our brains are literally programmed to ensure that we are never satisfied.
Right.
Like, literally we are biologically wired at a primitive level to be unhappy with where we are right now.
Right.
And despite knowing that, we still believe that if it's just one more thing, it's that this is the last thing. And if I get this thing, I'll truly be happy. It's the 5,000 square foot house, not the 3,000 square foot house. It's that 2,000 square feet difference. That's what was that gap. That's why
and I need it.
Yeah. It's the, I had, the 5 Series, S550, and that was nice. But like, if I had a Rolls, like, that's the difference. I lost my happiness. Like, it's crazy. It's so fucking crazy when you talk about it like that. But most of us, I'd say all of us, do that. We continue to do it, and it's a trap. And you never get happier achieving things. It's kind of screwed up. Like, it's really dark. Screwed up when you think about it that way. It's a game. It's a cat and mouse game your entire life.
I fight with this often because sometimes I'm like, I gotta do this and this and this, and I'm like, do I have to, or do I want to, or like, am I deep down doing it because I think I'm mad at you, or you're just more successful, and like 4 out of 5 of my friends are more successful, so I got to go do that. And then I slow down. I'm like, how does that impact my family and me and this? Do I want? And then I go back like, no, I'm good. We're just gonna, we have goals and stuff. Sometimes I'll have these goals and I'm like, I want to go here now. And then I gotta work on being like, yo, you're getting off track, and like none of this is actually on purpose, and no. But like it's not natural to me to just try to be more present and try to be more grateful. Like it's something I actually like work on. You know what I mean? And because I realized years back, like it was holding me back to be so to a degree unhappy with every year being more successful. Like every year I would feel less better. And I started to realize like, man, when I made $100,000 like one year, I was like, I think I don't remember being in a bad mood. It was, I needed more things, but like the difference between $100,000 and 10 million, even 100, like it's your brain. It's not the things. It's maybe a doper vacation for sure, but like you can even travel hack that, man. Like it's just not, it's more time, it's more presence, it's more people. And so I work on actively trying to make my life a life rather than a business goal. You know what I mean? But a lot of times you get lost in whether it's business goals or necessity goals or this, and life is meant to trap you. It's fucking dark.
Yeah. I think you think about ending the year, and then everyone that's listening now is going to be, setting goals for 2022. And you're setting, personal goals, professional goals, business goals, all this stuff. And I think it's important to have goals.
For sure.
Because if you don't have goals, I think the opposite end of the spectrum is that you don't do anything, right? If you don't have this motivation system, then we just sit our asses and you do what, basically rats that they remove dopamine from do, which is you can literally put a pellet of food an inch from their face and they won't eat it. They don't have enough motivation to go and eat the food. Right. Put the food in their mouth, it lights up and all that stuff, but they won't actually move to get food. So that's the other end of the spectrum, which is just as awful.
Yeah.
But I think it's what you said. It's like, it's the journey is one thing. I think that's the thing. It's goals are goals, but it's what it encourages you, motivates you to do to get there. I think that journey is important. Right. The way to improve yourself and work hard and push is really important. And I think setting goals that are going to make you truly happy, right? And so not just, hey, it's a money goal, but it's like an experiential goal. It's, are you spending enough time with your family? Right. Are you disconnecting from your phone enough? Like there's a lot of these goals people don't even think about setting. Right. It's like, hey, I want to spend 2 hours less on my phone and computer every day. I want to spend, by the end of the year, I want to have spent, 6 hours a week going on, trips with my family, whether it's just a Target or just things like just leaving the house and going and doing things.
Right.
Like to me, those are just as valuable of goals.
Those are the goals that will hit the real ones. Like you'll hit the other ones better if you're focused on these. Like I had somebody ask me recently, like, what are my goals? And I told them, they're like, there's not like financial goals. I was like, they're financial goals, but those aren't the most important ones. Like one of my goals is like for us to hang out with our families more, right? And do this and turn it into more monetization, mostly for the opportunity that I think we can do it, but like it gets us together more. So like you can achieve one goal with the other. Another one is to be able to take more vacations with my family. When I go speak, like I'm bringing them and I'm staying a few extra days. Being in a certain kind of shape, more so for like my insides rather than like six pack stuff. Just like I want to have like be able to run more and this and that, like cardiovascular health and kind of like quitting negative things, blah, blah, blah. And then the money almost like will finds itself in I'm sure both of our goals are like big, but if I didn't hit one or two of them and I hit the other ones, like that will give me more peace. The other one's just it's a bucket number. It's like, yeah, just math equals this. We have to go here. So when we get there, like that's kind of like the vibe of business growth, but it's not going to change my life. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be like, well, one of my other goals is buying a plane. I see friends that buy planes. I'm like, that's dope. I have friends that have planes. I can ride in them. Like I can just fly on a plane myself. Like it's not a crazy thing, making more your habits and your goals, personally first instead of professionally first, I think is something that people don't do, like you said. And I think it's crucial because you get lost and then you're like, well, what am I doing this for? Well, I have no other goal, I have no other hobby, I have no other real friends. So like, fuck, I guess I got to do more of this. You get trapped in this wheel. So I would suggest everybody that does do this year, because you're going to do it, go personal first, professional second. And I think that it'll help you be more grateful, more present, and different things like that. And then one thing that I've completely removed that has helped me a lot is when you wake up, don't look at your phone, because that's the first hit of dopamine that you get in the initial part of the day, and everything goes downhill from there. Because you'll scroll, you'll look, and then you kind of get lost. And like, well, what was today? And then you just keep refreshing the dopamine feed.
Yeah, I mean the big one is just, and we can wrap with this, is getting rid of, and I still battle. I'm not perfect. I still struggle with this and still fall victim to this. Is letting hourly and daily numbers impact your mood.
Yeah.
It's a big one. Yeah. And it's stupid. Like looking at your, Shopify or Stripe or whatever it is and saying, hey, today's, a slow day. And that's okay.
Right.
Like we lost money today, or we broke even today, and I didn't make a lot of money today. And like, that's fine, because there's tomorrow and there's next week and there's next month and there's an entire year. Right. There's going to be great days and great weeks, great months. There's going to be bad days and bad weeks and bad months. But it's for a long time it's plagued me of like, if like by noon we're doing really poorly, not a lot of sales, it literally impacts my day. I'm in a bad mood, short with my wife, I'm not as fun with my kid, like it impacts my day, and that's stupid. To let a few $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever it is, like that day, like dictate how I
treat the people you love.
Like it's so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And that's a big one. So yeah, not checking your phone and not letting those kind of reminders, or like you're invested, right? It's like crypto tanked, crypto's up. Like who cares day to day? Yeah. It's if you're 20, 30, 40 and you're in it for the long run, like who cares? Yeah. It's because I guarantee you, if you were like those people that panicked when the crash happened and you sold a bunch of stuff, like look yesterday, it was you're up. Like I bought some stuff 3 weeks ago, and then, the market tanked, and I was like, oh shit, I lost like 40% of what I just invested. But guess what? Today I'm up on that investment. Like I'm up now overall. because I didn't panic. I didn't care. It's like, I'll just buy more. I'm in it for the long run.
I look at it and leave.
Yeah, it's toxic.
Yeah. Well, guys, we hope that you guys enjoyed this first year. We had a lot of fun doing this, and we are going to continue to do more episodes, more content. Whole media property is going to come out of this whole thing. So please share this with people that you care and love. This is a really good episode, honestly, that should be shared because there's a lot of like realities in life and entrepreneurship and people. And I hope you guys set up amazing goals for yourself and you reach all of them, the personal and the professional. And you guys have an amazing new year. So on behalf of myself and Max, guys, thank you for year one. And we will see you in 2022.
See you guys.